Hey guys, that's right, Dee here is back with a brand new episode of Table Cheese with Anton Sixxx and myself. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and follow, and guess what? Enjoy the show. All right, this is it, everybody. This is a show of all shows. Yeah, I know, we're late in the game. And yeah, I'm pretty sure you heard like 50,000 people talk about this already. But hey, you haven't heard Table Cheese talk about it. I'm one of your hosts. This is Table Cheese. I'm D. I got like the coolest of cool dudes sitting here right next to me in virtual world. Anton Sixxx of Chessy Controller-Twitch. What's up, my guy?
How's it going, everybody? Excited to talk about the Game Awards, but the conversation that really brought us into this is I got to talk about the origins of me listening to podcasts. What got me into this space, other than my dad listening to NPR on the way to school every time he drove me.
Does that really count as a podcast? But I mean, I guess like they are like the trendsetters.
It's talk radio. Like when I have to explain podcasting to people who are older than the internet, I just say I do a talk radio show on the internet.
Do you really? That's what you go for? Okay.
It's like, well, like it's like whenever I have to, because it always like, it's like, yeah, I do a podcast. So like I do at this point multiple podcasts. So whenever I have to explain what a podcast is to somebody, it's a talk radio show on the internet. And
yeah. I mean, that's like the bear tax of it. Yeah. To the point.
So my dad used to listen to a lot of AM radio and NPR with me in the car, and
you can't do anything about it. Just gotta sit back there and listen to it. I hear you, man. And like you said, like your family wasn't really big on you playing games and back in the day too. So, those were
well, they were fine as long as my grades were good. They were good. Like that would be like my reward for a good report card would be a video game. Like that would be so like I wasn't getting in trouble. They knew where I was at. I was down in the basement playing games.
Playing video games.
Like they didn't have to worry. So that was like one of the things with my parents is like they see kids like even through high school, they see kids my age like out doing things that like they see the trouble that I could be getting into, but instead I'm just inside playing games online, talking with my friends, like, and at that point it's friends I'm in school with, so they know them, they know their parents, like they're like that is ideal scenario. Like
it's only grown since then, my friend. We were talking about like our origins of iPods. Like I had an iPod because like I worked with a guy at a mechanic shop. I gave him some cash, gave him like some trinkets and stuff like that to get myself an iPod to go road tripping to Minnesota. But you told me you got yours from a yard sale, and like it only had podcasts attached to it. You couldn't put any music on there.
I had a few different iPods over the years. I think my first couple iPods were iPod shuffles, the ones with no screen, just a little like clip on ear.
Yeah.
And so those. Like, I had a couple of those and, like, some formative trips to, like, Trinidad as a child with nothing but Fergie's solo album, Fergalicious.
Oh, my God!
The Tokyo Drift soundtrack, and then, like, Meteora and Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park. Like,
dude, two of those albums you mentioned, I wore them out just as much as you're talking about. Oh, Fergalicious. Fergalicious is... Oh, my God, yeah.
So I went to Trinidad with nothing but an iPod shuffle with those 4 albums on it. Tokyo Drift, Hybrid Theory, Meteora, and Fergalicious.
That's awesome. I could just like hear like Fergalicious like in your ear as you're landing there. That sounds hilariously awesome. Right on, man.
But we were talking about the first iPod that I got with the screen, that it was at a yard sale, and it had a bunch of music on it. And it had, like, the Last Samurai soundtrack. It had, whatever Cisco album had Unleash the Dragon on it. So I listened to that song. It was
song?
Was that on that same album?
I don't know. Was it? You told me, man. You know who rocked to it.
Well, Unleash the Dragon was that was the song that persisted because the reason I couldn't sync it with my music from my iTunes, or it would wipe everything that was on there.
Yeah, you don't want that.
But I could load my own podcasts on it. And some of my friends, like Jalen growing up, played World of Warcraft. So there was a World of Warcraft podcast I heard of through. I have no idea how I heard about this podcast. But it was the World of Warcraft podcast, Tavern Cast. And I would load episodes onto that. I listened to every episode of that show just because it'd be like, all right, listen to one, delete it, load the next one, listen to that. If I knew it was going to be a long weekend, load 2 episodes.
What was the name of this again?
Tavern Cast?
Tavern Cast?
Yeah, I think it's still like available somewhere, but
I'm looking.
Yeah, so that was my origin of listening to podcasts, was as a non-World of Warcraft player, listening to these random people. I remember my dad was a big ham radio guy, and one of the cast members, their in-game name was Kernkater, and then he had a son, and it was like Spawn of Kernkater was how they would refer to his son on the podcast. And I remember my dad was like at a ham radio meetup, and I was like, I am Spawn of Addison. And like everybody's just looking at me like this weird
that's a
kid.
bit of a nerd. Your dad's a bit of a nerd too, then, sounds like, huh?
Yeah, but my dad is a nerd in like a different way than me.
Okay,
Yeah.
I feel you. I found Tavern Cast. They started in 2005. Their last episode was November 7th, 2015. That was our last episode.
A 10-year run. That's like, yeah.
Yeah,
I listened to every single episode.
There's 263 episodes.
I have more episodes under my belt, but shout out to Tavern Cast.
This guy. And the thong song was on that album. Track number 8, thong song. Whipped out like a truck. All night long. Oh my goodness. That's a song, man.
Fisco, the last of the Targaryens.
Right? He went hard. He went very hard.
Fisco still goes hard to this day. Like, Fisco's actually a really good friend of Kinda Funny. Like, I remember the early days of them going independent, like Cisco being part of the Kinda Funny lore, and I was like, yeah, Cisco's part of my podcasting lore in a very different way.
I wish, right?
I had an iPod that had some Cisco music on it. That
one thing I can think about with Cisco recently is Legend of Tomorrow, his song. That was such a good montage. A superhero battle to the thong song. It was beautiful. It was great
he was. The thong song was in the Twisted Metal trailer, right?
Was it really?
Yeah. Oh, we listened to it with no audio. That was one of the episodes of Table Cheese we streamed. We watched the trailer with no audio on either of our ends, but the song was the thong song.
That's right.
We were getting into a whole tirade of like the whole conversation was probably problematic, and
and like it ended up being that. It ended up being that eventually, which was I'm not trying to get too excited, although I want to, but yeah, like a big right is a trait amongst people. But yeah, oh man, I knew it could be problematic.
Well, I mean, one of the things we got announced at the Game Awards is that we're getting a second season of Twisted Metal. And to be fair, out of all of the video game adaptations I've had my wife watch, the one that she didn't know it was a video game adaptation at the time, to be fair, but she was like, what was that show we were watching the other night? And wanted me to put Twisted Metal back on. So that's like,
hilarious.
Then I had to explain. I'm like, oh, yeah. I was like, Twisted Metal? I'm like, yeah, that's a video game thing. And just had, I was like, David Scott Jaffe drove out on the stage on E3 to announce the PS3 reboot in Sweet Tooth's ice cream truck.
That's so cool. It really is. Like it's a fun haven for gamers. like in 2023. Like in like fact that like it's closing up on a good sweet note in the gaming world. Like it's been a fun 2023. And since we're saying all this, let's let's do our best to get into it and talk about all the amazing stuff that happened this year at the 2023 Gaming Awards. Oh my goodness, there's so many categories. I wanna start it out right off the cuff and just go to the Game of the Year. Game of the Year award. The contestants were Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. And like we all know who won. Like if you're listening to this now, it doesn't matter. Like we know who won because they won like 6 awards. 6 awards like in this whole thing. It's Baldur's Gate, Baldur's Gate 6, Baldur's Gate 3. Like one.
I remember the conversation on the Chessy Controller podcast. That was when we did our Game Awards predictions. That was one of the episodes we did at Radic Records. And
Okay.
Radic is a huge D&D fan. Has probably put at least 100 hours into Baldur's Gate.
Good God. We gotta get back over to Radix, man. We gotta get back to Radix.
Yeah, totally. He's been a little bit under the weather, but it seems like he's on the mend. So that's one of the things. Like, yeah, as far as like the Anton Sixxx extended universe, Radic by Nature will be reintroduced soon, making his triumphant return to content. But he's just like, that was the last episode that we did there, and seeing him like, and the level of love that he had for Baldur's Gate, and just like, it was for me the first moment that I was really able to put into perspective, because Baldur's Gate is one of those games that has broken out of the gaming sphere.
Every single time they come out. I remember Baldur's Gate 2 was that was the game that really got me hardcore into like the fantasy gaming world. Baldur's Gate 2, I was immersed at least for half of the year playing that game. Like I went hard on it. Like find new levels, played it again, find levels like with different characters. Like, and from what I keep hearing about Baldur's Gate 3 and what I've seen of it, has the same element.
Does it have a Mac version? Do I have to press it? Like
right? This guy.
D, come on, man. I just want.
I know, bro. Like I know. You want me to get out there because if I get out there, it's gonna be a fun time. Me exploring it with a fantasy world. Oh God!
Like that's the thing. It's just been 2023 has been one of those years that so many things have happened in gaming, and I'm just like, 2023 is so at my job, like my 9 to 5, which will remain undisclosed. We have interns that come in periodically. And typically, like, the litmus test of if the intern is cool or not, it's like, do you play video games? Do you watch anime? Like, how into internet shitpost culture are you in general?
You got a little nerd institute over there, huh? All right.
Well, no, the thing is, it's just like, it happens so frequently, like, because they never stay for particularly long. That
I mean, if you're not part of the tier system, I can see why. Oh man, he's bottom tier. Can't have this guy sticking around.
Well,
but go on.
It's like interns are there for a set amount of time.
Yeah, I got you. They're
so interns. That's the thing. Like typically when they go into my like section, I don't even know how to. Department, when the people come to my department, it's like you're going through the litmus test. You got a beard? Hey man, how cool are you? Do you read manga? It's like you watch anime. Do you read manga? Like
these are things we need to know.
Right. We gotta see what your street cred is. As far as like we just had a dude come through who he's totally a normie. Like absolute like in school doing this internship for school credit, like total normal dude. But he was playing Baldur's Gate 3, and one of the most, like, that's the thing. He got a PS5, he got Elden Ring, he played Elden Ring, enjoyed Elden Ring, and then got Baldur's Gate and has been enjoying Baldur's Gate, and has kind of asked me for, like, some recommendations as far as, like, his next, like, super long, super deep game. I'm like,
Okay.
critically acclaimed MMORPG with the free trial that lets you play up through level 70 with no playtime restrictions, all the way through
I
the
was
end of the Stormblood, Final
I was
Fantasy
expecting like a
14.
big shooter drop. The way you set that up, like you said, he was a normie. And like he told me, he played Elden Rings and he played Baldur's Gate 3. I was expecting like some kind of weird factoid about to come out of your mouth about that. Oh, but he just, he's getting into it. Like he's embracing the gaming world. Is what you're telling me.
Well, yeah, and so it's always interesting to see because, like, typically the people I talk to about games are gamers like me, like the hardcore, all of them have shelves behind them full of like games and collectibles and stuff like that, and so I understand that I am very much in that bubble. So as many times as I can talk to people who are actively playing and engaging with games that aren't the hardcore like us, like
Right.
it's always interesting. So for him, for him and Baldur's Gate, Tears of the Kingdom broke out. Like we saw all the crucifixions of the Koroks, we saw all of that, but that was in May. And since May, it's just been Baldur's Gate because it had the like 3 different pops of promotion. It came out on PC, then it came out on PlayStation, then it came out on Xbox. So like just over the course of this year, it's interesting that I feel like Baldur's Gate, while for me it wasn't my game of the year, I didn't even play it, but it's one of those years where it's understandable why the game of the year won the game of the year. Last year, Elden Ring, it was a shoo-in. It came out in what, February? March?
Let's pause for a second. Like what was your game of the year?
My game of the year?
Yeah, what was your game of the year? 2023. What was your game of the year?
I gotta say, Final Fantasy 16.
Okay.
I
That's
can't.
not biased. Yeah, I mean, it's not
Well,
biased.
no. The thing is, there's a lot of like recency bias that has shifted a lot of people who really enjoyed Final Fantasy 16 off of Final
Go on.
Fantasy 16. Like, there's a lot of
But
recency bias going on of like people like this is awesome while they're playing it, but then like after that, it's like all that seems to shine through for those people are like and I'm not saying their criticisms aren't valid. Like there
I'm
are
just saying
problems
you.
with
I'm
that
saying
game.
I'm saying you in particular.
But
I'm saying
yeah,
like you in
me,
particular. Like
Final Fantasy.
you're biased. Come on, man.
I mean, I from the time they announced the game and then announced the
Hmm.
people working on the game and then announced like what the game was going to be and we saw the game, like it honestly exceeded my expectations of what I was going to get. So, and I mean, yeah,
How about
it's
this?
like
My
if
my wife does this thing with her father. Like she does this thing where every year the Oscars happens, and they watch all the movies that are inside the category of picture of the year. They watch them all every year before they watch the Oscars and give like their vote of which one will win. Now, have you played Alan Wake 2?
no, but so here's the problem with Alan Wake 2. And I don't think
No,
I've been
I'm just
able to talk to
like I got a thing I'm getting to it. Like, how you play Alan Wake 2? I know you play Spider-Man 2. How you play Alan Wake 2?
no.
How you play Super Mario Bros. Wonder?
No.
And what about Resident Evil 4?
Kind of yes, but no.
We should make a little challenge here. Like I really want to hear like your honest critique opinion about like game of the year about this. I want to come back to this like in a future episode. But like I want you to like to play these games and we talk about it throughout the year and like really hear what your honest take is. Like come say March, April.
We
Like
gotta
what?
come up on some sales because that's the problem with like playing all these games this year. These are not cheap. Like
We'll
the
we'll
barrier
keep an
to
eye out for them.
entry. Yeah, like
Hey, if you come to Table Cheese, we'll tell you what the sales are for these games because we're gonna be looking out for them every week. I'm
yeah,
here for that. Sounds like a good fun challenge
yeah.
right there, man.
I know Mario's never gonna go on sale. Like Mario, honestly, all I'm
I
waiting
mean,
on
let's
to
do this
play.
right now. Let's do this right now because like it's the holiday season.
Even right now, like Mario wasn't on sale for Black Friday. Like Super Mario Brothers Wonder in 10 years is going to be the exact same price, if not more, than it is right now.
I
Nintendo
don't know.
games do like first party Mario games. Like I had to cash in some like rewards points and stuff to get Mario 3D World when the Mario movie came out. So like Nintendo games, that's one of the
like I said,
legitimate problems.
I'll keep your ears to it every episode. Table Cheese. I'll keep you guys updated. That's my challenge, to check in every week about what these prices are for these games, and I'll bring it to your attention and see which one you want to play next. That sounds like fun. I like the sound of that.
Yeah. So
and while we're talking about fun, go ahead.
Yeah, like that's definitely something I'd be down for. Like if you can find me these things for like not $60 to $70.
Yeah, dude.
Like totally.
I got you.
Because like
I got you.
If they're nominated for Game of the Year over my current Game of the Year, like I played Spider-Man 2.
They're worth playing.
Yeah, they're definitely worth playing.
I get you. There you go. I hear you. And like while we're talking about this fun, this excitement right now, we got to talk about the most anticipated game of the year. And like I'm not rushing through all this, and I'm not going to go through all the categories like we did like in the last episode. But we'll talk about like some of the highlights, some of the fun parts that like Anton watching that I saw in view. And like the most anticipated game of the year, like for next year, is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And like I'm not really surprised by that. Like not by the slightest.
Question. Because, like, I told you when we talked about what I voted for, I said I voted for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth as my most anticipated game of the year. Let's say that comes out the end of February, probably gets delayed to March. Like, I'm not even gonna, like, it seems like this game's relatively done, but, like, knowing the industry and, like, how things go, it'll probably get delayed till March, at maybe April, Like... But first half of next year, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth comes out. It's my most anticipated game. Come the end of the year, it'll probably be my game of the year. Like I knew you were gonna fucking say it. I knew you were gonna say that. Like he's building up to this. I knew you're gonna. Not even a question, by the way. Not even a question. You know it's not. That's not a question. But it is a question of if it'll be my game of the year, because
it will be. It will most definitely be your game of the year. Come on, dude. Let's be real with each other. It most definitely will be.
The new Final Fantasy 14 expansion drops in the summer. Like next year, I have a slate just of very Anton Sixxx specific games that it's like beat after beat after beat, like season after season, month after month. It like if I keep sending you the games to check out list every single month, there's going to be one pick on there that is like probably the number one pick of those months. Like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Final Fantasy 14 Dawn Trail, Final Fantasy 16. The Leviathan DLC.
That's the biases I'm talking about. And since we're still talking about Final Fantasy, we can move on to the next part, which is like the best score, music, and like. And if you're saying something like this, sounds like some shit that Anton wrote. Did Anton write this? You're absolutely correct, everybody. Anton did write this out. So best score of music is Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, because Masayoshi Soken, like as a composer, that was one of the things that had me excited. Is that, Yoshi P, who worked on 14, like, it's literally the dev team from 14 with the combat director from Devil May Cry. Like, this was their opportunity to take what I've loved about Final Fantasy 14 and, like, appeal it to a broader market.
Like, they said, like, we got Anton in mind while we're making this, but we want to sell this to everybody. But through Anton's vision, can we only do this? And, like, they did it. They did it for you, man. I'm happy for you.
They did it for all the Warriors of Light out there who play Final Fantasy 14. They were like, look, I know it's hard to get people to play Final Fantasy 14. Even though everybody you get to play it is worth it for them. So, but Final Fantasy 16 was their opportunity to say, we're making a single-player game. We're going to bring our strengths in storytelling and world building to something that is like more mass market. Like an MMO is not mass market. Like Final Fantasy 14 is in the trenches. Like, but 16 is not. 16 is something you can you could play it. Like, what was the last Final Fantasy you played?
Ooh, that's a sub
Have you
question.
ever beat a Final Fantasy game?
That's another question. All right. So we got two questions in the air right now. First question being answered, when was the last one I played? Uh 9.
9. Okay. Good
And it was
answer.
barely
Good answer.
and that's
I'll hit you with the Family Feud like I'm
appreciate it.
in the back.
Appreciate it. And the did I have ever beaten one? I came close with 7, but then I realized how much more I had to go, and I didn't come that close at all. So
So
no,
you
no, I
didn't
never.
beat Sephiroth.
No. What?
That's not even like the craziest question. Like, there's
No.
okay. So you know you didn't beat Sephiroth. Cool.
God, no, you crazy? No.
So you definitely didn't go and
No.
beat the Emerald weapon.
I don't even know what that is. So
Exactly. So
definitely
that's why I was
not.
like, if levels to this shit, I gotta see like, I gotta gauge where your gauge is as far as so. 7's the closest you've come to beating one,
Yes.
and 9 was the last one you played.
Yeah.
9 is like
There we go.
9 is one of those normie answers of like I'm drunk at a party talking about Final Fantasy, and some drunk girl walks up and is like, "I love Final Fantasy 9."
Oh dear God! Hey man,
No, that is
if
it's a good
if I can say
answer.
Kingdom, if I can say Kingdom, no, it's not. The way you just put that is not a good answer. That's a
No,
horrible
it's
answer.
actually a good. It's a gauge
That's
of the normies outside of like.
that's pompous as hell. You damn well know it. Don't you dare. Oh my God! Squall is so cute. Don't do that to me, man. Get out of
Squall's
here.
8.
See, that's how far off I am. That's what I'm
9
talking
is
about.
Zidane and Vivi and like.
Ooh, gosh, is it 8 then? Oh my gosh, 8 is my answer then. Ooh,
Oh, less of a good answer then.
not the best. Not the
No,
best.
Final Fantasy VIII is one of the few games I've ever experienced ever that wants you to play it less. Like, grinding in that game is counterintuitive. Like, if you grind in Final Fantasy VIII, you're just making the game harder for yourself because everything's scaling to you. So the stronger you get, the stronger everything else is getting at the same time. So like really the best way to play that game is to fight as little as possible and level as little as possible.
All right. All right. The next category is best action game, and that went to Armor Core. Is that 4
6.
or is that 6? 6.
We got to
Oh,
get your
really?
Roman numerals. You got to have them like that, dude. Like,
No, no, I don't have like multiplication like that. Fires of Rubicon. So there we go.
Armor
That
Core
is it. Best action game. I'm
from
not sure what the category.
software. Like,
What
it
what,
was
what was the
interesting.
categories for this?
The nominees.
Action
I know
game.
they had some really bad nominees in the best action game category.
It's
Like Dead
Dead
Island
Island
2.
2,
Yeah, Dead Island.
Ghost Hunter,
Ghost
Hi-Fi
Runner's good.
Rush,
Hi-Fi Rush is good.
and Remnant 2.
Remnant 2 I've heard is good, but that's one of those games like Remnant from the Ashes, like I tried the first one and it really wasn't my jam, so I'm definitely not going to hop into the sequel in a year this stacked. Like
From what I've
hopefully
heard,
next year is less stacked so I can try a wider variety of things, but even this year I went out of my way to play things that aren't just my typical Monster Hunter Final Fantasy rotation. Like Venba was up for Games for Impact and like Indie Game of the Year, and I went and played through the entirety of Venba, have more than half the trophies. Honestly, think I'm going to go back for the platinum on that because that game was so impactful on me personally. And then Zelda, like, while I really enjoyed Breath of the Wild, typically Zelda is not part of my gaming rotation. And then Diablo, like, while I really enjoyed Diablo 3, we don't get a Diablo release that often, so playing a lot of Diablo 4 this year was just kind of, yeah, and like I said with a lot of these other games, I didn't buy Diablo at $60 to $70. I waited till I could get Diablo for $40 after playing it for free for the first 20 levels. So, like, yeah.
What I've heard about that Dead Island 2 is moderately pretty well, and also Hi-Fi Rush is one of the most favorite games talked about out there right now. But
yeah, Hi-Fi Rush is the one Xbox.
What I'm really curious about is why Armored Core 6 was the winner out of both of these. This would be something to come back to also. This is a good category to pick, Anton. It's really cool to see this spectrum of games out like this placed in front of us, and just how this one here came on top of all the others. Makes me want to play it, and that's the beauty of Gears of War. They make you want to get into these games when you either been out of it for a while or don't know what to play sometimes.
I would not recommend Armored Core as a game you pick up, especially Armored Core. Even to me, as somebody who's ingratiated in games, Armored Core is obtuse. It's from Software, the developers of Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, but before that they made Armored Core. And before that, they made, I want to say King's Quest. Is it King's? It's King's something. King's Field. So, if you, Dee, I know you were, in the PS1 days, really out there, but for modern, Armored Core 6 apparently is really rewarding to, really get into, but even for me...
It's a difficult game. It's a difficult game. Let's just put it out. It's a very difficult game. It's very complex. But hey, if you got the time and you want to learn a new mechanic, it's fun. I played Armored Core. I think I played Armored Core 4 was the last one I played, and it's hard, but it's fun. It's worth and when you win, it's so damn satisfying.
And that's what From Software. That was why Elden Ring was my game of the year last year. Same developer, same studio.
Yeah.
This is actually the team that came from Sekiro, and Sekiro is honestly the From Software game I respect the most. I beat Genishiro, I did some of the early skill checks in that game. The problem with that game, and Hollow Knight and Sekiro are the two games, I wish people would stop being so obtuse about these games online. They're video games. I understand deep lore and, world building. What do I do next? I did this thing. I beat this boss. Where do I go?
What do you do next? I mean, it's a hard place to go.
Finding the answer to that online. I've joined Discords. I've done all. Hollow Knight is a game I know I would be all. I have Hollow Knight on Switch and PlayStation. Hollow Knight, I am very aware of how good of a game it is. The problem is. It's just getting a straight answer from anybody, anywhere, anything. Hollow Knight's one of those games that I've had to go watch speed runs to see what is absolutely necessary content and see okay, they glitched through the world here, and then they explain that you were supposed to go down and left. So I'm going to go down and left and see where that takes me. Those are the.
We do have a few more categories we wanted to get through before we close up the show. But best ongoing was a category I was really familiar with looking at. It was Apex Legends, Cyberpunk 2077, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, and Genshin Impact. And so the best ongoing game currently is Cyberpunk 2077. That is a winner.
Cyberpunk's not really an ongoing game.
No.
It did get a lot of updates, and it did get a expansion this year. But next year, there's probably going to be nothing.
That's ongoing. I know, the Final Fantasy is a favorite franchise of yours. You got some sentiment towards that. But yeah, I get it.
What were the other nominees? Let's take Final Fantasy
Fortnite,
14 out.
Apex Legends, and Genshin Impact.
Okay, those other 3 games are all games that could have been nominated last year and probably were nominated last year and will be able to be nominated again next year. Cyberpunk
Gotcha.
would not have been able to be nominated for that last year and will not be able to be nominated for that next year because they've already talked about that 2.0 was one of their like final big updates for the game, and then they did
Right.
2.1 kind of as a bonus for the fans. But so that's kind of like even taking Final Fantasy 14 out of the argument. Apex Legends, they finally started back releasing new characters. There are constant
Right.
seasons with that game. Fortnite added Fortnite festivals, Lego Fortnite, and Rocket Racing. Like all of these, Genshin Impact, I know just got a huge new like update. All like hours and hours of content for players. Like I personally don't enjoy playing Genshin Impact, but I understand the amount of content. Like I've played it, I've had it installed multiple times, I've given it multiple chances. It's just like it's a gotcha game, and like for me, if I'm going to play a gotcha game, it's going to be either Bleach Brave Souls or Fire Emblem Heroes. Those are the 2 gotcha games that it's like
Okay.
but like so once you get past that, because I've also tried Hoyo versus other game that's readily available to me of Honkai Star Rail. And so all of that's my argument against Cyberpunk, regardless of Final Fantasy being nominated in this category. That last year, it's not an ongoing game.
I mean, but
It
hearing what you
got a
just
big
said,
update.
it
Every
sounds like you
game
said
gets big
that
updates.
you would still give it a Cyberpunk, even if you take out Final Fantasy, like you would still give it a Cyberpunk.
No,
Well,
I would
what I
not
heard
give it to
and what you just said.
Cyberpunk. I would give
But
it to
it's cool.
legitimately any of the other games in the category.
But
Despite,
you didn't really pick one for those categories. But we can move on
I'll
to like,
say
the best
Fortnite.
independent game.
I'll
Fortnite,
give.
gotcha. Fortnite, there it is. That's Anton's pick. If it
Well,
wasn't
it's
for Final Fantasy,
yeah,
Fortnite.
yeah, totally.
The best independent
Cyberpunk
game,
would be my last pick out of all of those games, and I don't
best
even like Genshin.
best independent game is Cocoon, Dave the Diver, Dredge, Sea of Stars, and Viewfinder. And the winner of best independent game was Sea of Stars.
Yes.
Now that was like a big excitement for a lot of folks out there. I know, like we talked in the show, like you said, you were getting into one of these other games besides Sea of Stars. I forget which one that was, but I did hear things about Viewfinders through the grapevine, and Dave the Diver picked up a few times on my feed. But yeah, Sea of Stars is like the one I heard the most about. So
There was a
this
lot
is
of
probably the best
controversy around this category because Dave the Diver is not an independent game in any sense of the word. It's just a game with pixel art. It's by a team that's wholly owned by Nexon, which is a huge publisher. Like,
Sounds spooky.
but yeah, there were a lot of arguments going around about Dave the Diver not even belonging in this category because it's not an indie game. Like independent,
Gotcha.
like when you talk about is the like description for the category is a game created outside of the traditional developer publisher like release structure,
Right.
and Dave the Diver exists entirely within that existing structure. It is by a developer owned by a big publisher that is released by that big publisher and marketed by that big publisher. Like I don't it's not indie in any sense of the word.
Gotcha.
Like Dredge is indie. Venba's in what read out I gotta hear give me the nominees and I'll explain why all of them make more sense as an indie game over Dave the Diver. And what
I
one?
I I sadly don't have it in front of me right now. I moved on to the best RPG, and that category had Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 14, Lies of P, Sea of Stars, and Starfield. And Baldur's Gate 3 was the one to win this category
Yeah.
also over Final Fantasy 14, Sea of Stars, and
Well,
Starfield.
over 16.
What's that?
Over 16. And I'm aware that Baldur's Gate is a better RPG than Final Fantasy 16.
16, not 14. Apologies. Yeah. Roman numerals. Yeah. But yeah. All right. Why is that? Why are you willing to accept that?
Because I mean, Final Fantasy 16 is a third-person character action game. You don't have like when you level up, your skill points are automatically distributed. Like, so everybody at the exact same level in that game will have the exact same like stat spread. Like, there's no customization in that. As far as like the gear system is just as you progress in the story, you get objectively better gear, and then you just use that objectively better gear until you get more like Final Fantasy 16 is like it's an action RPG, I guess, but it's a third person character action game. So
Gotcha.
that's why I like even Starfield has a better argument. Like, as much as I don't like Bethesda games, like Starfield has a better argument for being in this category than Final Fantasy. Just because it has Final Fantasy in the name does not mean it is an RPG. There's like virtually no role-playing game elements in Final Fantasy 16. It is a third-person character action, over-the-top cinematic experience.
Oh.
But yeah, like I knew that Final Fantasy 16 wouldn't win this category. I think they just had to hit a quota of nominees, and people were like, it has Final Fantasy in the name, let's throw it in there. Like, no, it couldn't hang. And like, yes, I'm aware. Like, Baldur's Gate 3 is a better role-playing game than Final Fantasy 16 every day of the week, all year long.
Hey, Anton.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Totally. That's part of the reason I'm here, D.
Were you ever part of like the debate club in your youth?
No.
Really?
I did robotics and academic decathlon.
All right on. Okay. Answer some questions for me. I appreciate that. But yeah, that is my categories for nominees of Game of the Year. Did we miss anything, Anton? Anything like else you wanted to hop into, talk about when it came to the Game of the Year?
I think it was.
Or the Game Awards?
I'm glad Street Fighter 6 won because it was a real toss up as far as just like who the judges were for the Game Awards, whether Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter 6 would win.
Sorry, the contestants for that one was God of Rock, Mortal Kombat 1, Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2. This is the best fighting, you're saying, right?
Yes. And so
Tiger Bravery and Street Fighter 6. I really feel like Tekken kind of.
Tekken's
said,
not
you know
out.
what?
Tekken comes
I know.
out.
I know. I mean,
Tekken's probably gonna, if Project L doesn't come out in 2024, Tekken 8's probably gonna win.
You don't say. You don't say.
But Project L will give it a run for its money. I guarantee that. Like, I just downloaded the Tekken 8. There's a free demo available on PlayStation Now. It's coming later in the week to Xbox and PC. But I downloaded the Tekken 8 demo just so I could get my hands on just see what Tekken 8's gonna be, because Tekken is like one of those fighting games that's it's a staple. So
I get you. Like my big concern or my big takeaway in all this whole thing is that Mortal Kombat 1 lost to Street Fighter 6, like that,
which is good.
I mean, like it says a lot of stuff though.
It means the judges had taste.
Does it mean like that Street Fighter was just a better game? Does it mean that
yes,
that Mortal Kombat 1 wasn't fully developed, or like it was just like
it's
slapped
not
together?
done.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat 1, that's the thing with all of these Warner Brothers NetherRealm fighting games. It's been the problem since Mortal Kombat 9, where you are better off buying that game in 1 year than you are buying that game on day one. On day one, even if you buy the most expensive version that's like over $100 for that game, the content you're getting is less than exactly 1 calendar year later if somebody buys that game for $40. So you could spend $100+ day one on Mortal Kombat 1 and you'll get a good amount of content. But the person who waits 1 calendar year, because it was this problem with Mortal Kombat 9, it was this problem with Injustice 1, it was this problem with Mortal Kombat 10, it was this problem with Injustice 2, it was this same problem with Mortal Kombat 11. That's why, like, I really like Mortal Kombat 11, but I did not buy Mortal Kombat 11 until I was able to get the Aftermath Ultimate Upgrade Edition for $40. And I don't feel like I missed out on anything in comparison. Where with Street Fighter,
You see now, like
you
this
could buy
is
the base version of Street Fighter day one and get.
You went kind of hard. You just went like kind of hard press on Mortal Kombat. Like you just trashed the hell out of Mortal Kombat just now. You realize that, right?
It's not the game
you
that's the problem.
I got it. Well, like, but you did. Like, I feel like we gotta find ourselves like a Mortal Kombat expert to talk with you. I feel like Table Cheese needs like to take a
yeah.
step
If you have a Mortal Kombat,
we need to start looking around and doing that for sure.
Because I'm not trashing Mortal Kombat as a game. And I guarantee even hardcore Mortal Kombat players will agree with me, is that the people who wait longer to buy the game get a better value than the people who buy it early on. And that's just the case with WB Games. That's a publisher level thing. That's not a developer level thing. The things on the developer level, as far as Netherworld developing these games, like, the games are good. All of the games that I listed that came out of this studio, Ed Boon and the team, like, all of these games are great. Nothing short of, like, amazing video games. Like, the story mode in Mortal Kombat 11 was awesome. It was awesome. Like, full stop. Like, no questions asked. The story mode in Mortal Kombat 11 is more than I was Like, I knew it was better than what to expect out of a fighting game, but it was even better than what I was expecting. So, like, I'm not saying this game is bad in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying the amount of content, like the amount of fighters, the amount of stages, the amount of actual things you are using and playing, and, like, the things at your disposal in that game, you get a better value the longer you wait. And it's not like a crazy, insane turnaround time. Like, Mortal Kombat 1 has already gone on sale.
Gotcha.
But
were there any categories that you wanted to touch into before we do the send off for this whole planetary of awesome best multiplayer? That's Baldur's Gate too.
Yeah, Baldur's Gate swept, and, like, that's why, like, I might need to get with Radic, like, and really, that would be a good thing for us to have, like, a conversation with Radic at Radic Records about his experience with Baldur's Gate, because he's a lot bigger fan of D&D. Like, I've done D&D twice in my life, and, like, one of those times was at one of his birthdays. Like, that was what he wanted to do for his birthday, and so we went and we did that and, like, had that experience with him. So, like, I'm sure, like, the subject matter he's a much bigger fan of, but, like, I watched him play that game, and CRPGs just aren't my style, typically, like, and so that's why, like, I'm not upset in any way. I'm glad that Final Fantasy 16 got its flowers where it really mattered in the soundtrack, because that soundtrack is, like, undeniably amazing. And like, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth got its most anticipated, but and then Armored Core got best action game, but Baldur's Gate and Alan Wake cleaned up. And, like, a high tide raises all boats. Like,
unless you're Spider-Man and you're on a niche boat. But, you know, this has been a very fun and amazing conversation about the Game Awards. Anything else, like, you got coming up this week? I know, like, you had a few podcasts that you were putting out there, right?
Well, yeah, we have our Game of the Year reactions episode of the Chessy Controller podcast coming out. Well, from recording, it'll be out in less than 24 hours. So there's that. And then we'll be recording episode 260 this coming Saturday, and then
probably by May. Probably by May, you had like 300 episodes, right?
oh well, we also did so. When the pandemic hit, we switched to Extra Slice because, like, before that, we did every episode in person. And so when we switched to doing it remotely, we changed, like, we did that as like a sub. We thought COVID would be over a lot sooner than it was. So we started like a sub series of like the Extra Slice. Like, these are our remote episodes. And like, so we stuck with that branding for a while, and we got probably 200 episodes into that.
A podcast is a podcast is a podcast is a podcast, man.
Right. So if you look, we're probably approaching 400 actual episodes on that one feed. So
drinks up. Get those numbers. Let's find out. Yeah, here you go. There we go. Now it's a party. So
I got a question, D, for you.
What's up?
Is there are certain podcasts that I listen to that play us out with a song? Is there a way that you could play us out of this podcast with "Beer Is Good" by Psycho Stick? Is there a way you can make that happen?
I don't know. Let me see.
If you need an MP3 file, I could probably make that shake for you. Like, if
I'm trying to see if I can find it on my own here. Let me see how I'm not as quick as most individuals. Have a bit of pace to me.
But if that's a possibility, I'd like to start like playing us out of Table Cheese with a song. Like, just give you like a minute clip of like a song that kind of like encapsulates the energy of the night, and like I can give you one of those every episode. I'll actually send you an example of what I'm talking about, the podcast that I'm getting this inspiration from. Shout out 84Play. Yeah.
It makes me glad. There's nothing to say. Here's what don't be beer. Beer is good. Beer is good. Beer is good. And stuff. Beer is good. Beer is good. Beer is good. Let's go drink some beer. 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 Beer.
So I guess we're just going out with a live performance of it. We don't need.
Yeah, there you
we don't even need the MP3 at this point.
There you go. There you go. I don't mind doing that. But give me the file. I'll put it out there. I am D of FJ Nerd Talk. Right now, I am DreamHack tomorrow. Oh, that just slapped me in the face. Crap. I got a lot to do tonight.
I've actually seen one of our developer friends, Super Sane Games, the developer of Bakemono. He was actually because he's a dev. He got in early to DreamHack and has been sharing out pictures from it. So, like, it actually looks like it's going to be a really good event. I wish like my schedule weren't in such utter turmoil right now, or like, even without like the personal things that I've had going on, this weekend was like, even with those things being in flux.
Yeah.
This weekend is still a busy weekend. Like, I still have a lot to do over the course of the next 72 hours. Like, I'm just gonna be
autopilot.
Well, I can't even be autopilot because that makes for like lesser quality of these. Like, they're all things that I'm doing of my own volition, and so like there's a lot of things I could just be like, no, I'm going to stay in bed, but I need to be motivated to get up and to go like get at those things. And next year, DreamHack, like, any gaming specific conventions, D?
Yeah.
I gotta go. You gotta have your resident gamer on the floor.
I know.
Shaking hands, kissing babies, shaking babies, kissing hands.
And on that note, thank you all. This has been a great episode. All right. Oh man. Until next time, you guys take it easy.
And keep it cheesy.
Hey guys, D here of FTL Nerd Talk. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, tell your friends about FTL Nerd Talk. Got a lot of different shows for all of you. Make sure you tune in every week for a brand new episode. Take it easy.